This solar power system is 20 years old now. And originally in 1987, no, 1989, I bought a set of panels, I bought an inverter and some batteries, and I made a little shed for the batteries, and I put the panels on a little structure on the ground out here, and I used this solar power system to build the house. I used power saws, table saw, skill saw, and such, and built the house without any use of a generator or any supplemental power, except for the power that I had from my solar system. It's a standalone system. That means I have batteries, and I'm off the grid. And so I've been living off the grid for 20 years.
And
the panels themselves are not the original panels. I did buy, originally I bought an array, a 400 watt array of 850 watt or 48 watt Arco panels.
how much each panel was?
Each panel was 48 watts.
48 watts. And you had
I
four
eight of
eight
them. They were about half the size of each of these now. And this array now is about 500 watts, I believe.
And which company is this?
This is Kyocera.
Kyocera.
And I replaced them because they actually decreased their output over time due to the way that panels were built at that time. They were very intolerant of shading during the day. And these panels do get some shading during the day because I'm in a forest. So after some 18 years or so, I went ahead and replaced them to give me an optimum.
I'm turning the camera to look at the south side,
yeah,
where the main...
Some trees, the
so
trees have grown up, and some trees will be cut to improve our sun here. We do have pretty good...
Is this due south approximately, where I'm looking at now?
Pretty much due south, yeah.
Okay.
But of course we're a ways from the house as well. If you were to step back and actually stand on the roof where
right.
the panels are,
right.
the trees would not look quite so high.
And then you have two more systems to help you, and one of them is a very sophisticated line. That is this line here.
The solar dryer.
Solar dryer.
Passive. Yes.
It's a passive system.
That's correct.
And basically it's a line to dry your clothes.
That's exactly right.
Which is something that in the city we never hear about. So you don't have a dryer in your home?
We don't have a dryer.
Okay.
We do have a washing machine.
Which is a revolution for this place, right?
Yeah, it took us a while to make the decision to buy a washing machine. But with these new panels, suddenly we had an abundance of power.
Okay.
And we realized that we could be using more power than we have been. And even still, we have an overabundance typically. There's only a certain time of year that we're now short, which tends to be the late fall, where the sun is getting low in the sky, and the rains haven't started yet, because that's the other system that we have in place here that contributes to our independence.
The hydro?
And that's the hydroelectric.
Can we look at that too? Maybe we can start there?
Let's go there.
Let's walk.
I have a few questions. One is, first of all, I see you have a thermal water heater.
Yeah, I got the hot water heater up there, and that was functional when I first built the house, and it's not functional right now. I do hope to hook it up again at some point, but right now it's not functioning.
So how do you get your hot water?
The hot water is through a flash heater, a Aquastar flash heater, and it's designed to supply hot water. As much hot water as you need whenever you turn on the hot water.
So it's with it works on the propane, on the gas, on the propane. Okay.
And it's also designed in such a way that if the water is preheated, let's say by a solar hot water system, the water heater will only heat the water as much as necessary. If the water is already hot, it doesn't need to come on to make it hotter. And if the water is only partially hot, it will come on just enough to heat the water to optimum temperature. And if the water is coming into it cold, then it will heat it up to hot water temperature. So it's a nice supplement to a solar hot water system.
And how many days of autonomy you have?
Of what?
Of autonomy with the batteries?
The batteries are they're good for about 5-7 days of pretty serious cloudy weather. We will begin to conserve if we see that a cloudy period is coming. But if it's a very rainy period, then again we have an abundance of power, because the hydro, as much as the solar is giving us, which is an overabundance at this time, the hydro has the capacity to give us even more overabundance of electricity.
And the hydro, does it give AC or DC power?
It's DC.
DC as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we could mention the small garden,
Odd log.
vegetables.
Or the large garden that is not visible here.
Yeah.
We're walking to the hydro.
We are walking to the creek with the hydro.
Yeah.
Northern California forest, plenty of redwoods and other many lovely trees and bushes.
So here it is. This system is designed to take water from a creek, not this same creek, a different creek, and bring it through this pipe, which is 1,000 feet long, and brings the water from a point that's in elevation 115 feet higher than this location here. If you look at the gauge, it shows that we have nearly 50 pounds of pressure. And so that water, if I were to turn it on, I don't need the power right now, so I don't have it on.
But the sun is out, you have enough from the sun. Right?
No, the batteries are charged. The batteries are fully charged.
The batteries are fully charged. That's exactly it. And so this this alternator, which is manufactured in Northern California, it's a Harris hydroelectric alternator, and there's a guy, I think his name is Ledbetter, who has taken over the Harris company and runs a little manufacturing company in Redway, California. And he manufactures these, and they're a permanent magnet alternator, so they're very low maintenance, and it's designed so that when you turn on the water, I just have things setting in there like some tools and such.
You called it a permanent. Okay.
It's a permanent magnet motor.
You call it a turbine?
And this is the turbine, and so this is a Pelton wheel, and Harris also cast this and was manufacturing that when he was running the business, and it's a specially designed wheel to catch the flow of water in this little nozzle, which is about 3/16 of an inch in diameter. Water pours out of that at a high velocity, spinning this wheel and spinning the alternator as a result.
It's a 12 volt or a 24?
My system is a 24 volt system,
24.
and
DC.
so I don't know that the alternators are any different for the 12 or the 24 volt system. because they're simply designed to produce an abundance of power, which is regulated more or less by the batteries.
Oh, how many amperage does this give you?
This, I have a series of different nozzles.
Why
For
is
this.
it like that?
Why is it like this? Because this is off the original
You successfully
alternator,
connected it.
and I replaced this alternator. I had a different alternator.
You had a car alternator at one point?
It was like a bus alternator.
Bus?
It was a little more primitive, and it was not as efficient or as long-lasting as this. Nonetheless, it lasted about 6 years before it needed any work at all, and then I had it rebuilt, and then it lasted probably another 8 years or something, and then I bought this one, and I've just put this in. And I wanted an amp gauge, so I just took this, which was on the old alternator system, and I put it on there, just kind of set it there, and it's just an ammeter, just to give me a sense of what's happening. I have different nozzles that I can place on the system, and the smallest nozzle, which I have on there now, consumes about 11 gallons of water a minute. And the largest nozzle that I have would be about 40 gallons a minute. And the smallest nozzle I have produces about 3 amps. And it's just been my experience that 3 amps is more than enough. I don't need any more than that. I could probably get, well over 10 amps with the largest nozzle. But at that rate, I'm simply going to have to shut off the system or divert the power somehow, because it's going to be way too much.
Because
for my
batteries have a certain rate of charge that they like, right? Basically, you would throw too much power at once at them?
It's not
Is
that it's
not
too much power
okay.
at once. It's because the solar array puts out, let's say, 15 amps during the day. It's just that that this is relentless. It's constant. It's not for several hours during the day. It's 24 hours a day, day after day.
So now, if you would open it, what would we see?
Open it.
Let's open it.
Yeah,
All right.
let's do that. And so I'm just hooking up the pipe, which I had disconnected, and I'll just hook that back up.
You could have a heater in the house. I mean, you don't need usually, but like electrical heater, would you use the excess whenever you have it?
You have to have some way of diverting excess power.
Yeah.
It just started spinning, right?
That's correct.
And the water
And the amps going up here.
and the amps look on.
There's 3 amps on my smallest nozzle.
Okay.
But I don't see any reason to put on a larger nozzle, because those 3 amps at 24 hours a day at 20 and something like 28 volts. Between, let's say, 24 and 30 volts, I'm getting 3 amps at somewhere between 24 and 28 volts. So what is that in amps?
70 in amps.
No, not in amps, in watts. In
80.
watts, it's something like
75.
80, something like that, 80. On my smallest nozzle, I'm getting, let's say, 80 watts out of this, 24 hours a day. And that's more power than I'm able to use. And so I can use it for a week or two, but then if it just continues relentlessly beyond that, it's going to start to overcharge my batteries. Or I'm going to have to find some way of dumping that excess power. So I could double, triple, quadruple the amount of power that I get out of this, but there's absolutely no need.
And then the water
is now
down
discharging out of this pipe back into this creek.
Actually, the impact for the environment here is almost nothing. We get the water, we fill it back, like nothing happened almost, but we get a bundle of energy.
We're putting this water back. See, that's the water that the system is using right now to produce that 3 amps. And this creek is different than the water that the water is coming in from, but it becomes the same creek about 200 feet down. The two creeks converge. And so I'm borrowing it from one creek, putting it into this other one, and then they become the same creek a couple hundred feet down.
And you're saying that this...
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Water, if we speak about all the house, it's all totally off the grid. Where there is a spring, the water comes from a spring and a well. It's totally independent, right? Well,
yeah, there's the water for the house is gravity feed from a spring that's on the high part of the land, and that water is also pumped via another solar panel that's in the garden to a tank on the highest point of the land.
it's a DC pump directly from the panels.
This is our shower.
Oh, you're using soap, huh?
Don't you notice that I don't stink anymore? And this is the room that we built, some 20 years ago, to be a storage room for the batteries, and it's still holding up more or less.
Battery bank.
Now, if we had more light, that would
There's
have
the
been...
generator.
Do you have light inside by any chance?
There
No.
is, yeah. Well, is there? Yeah, I do. No, the light has been removed. I can bring light here, probably. Should I
I
do that?
think we should, because otherwise,
try.
I'm
Cut it,
guessing.
but
I'm
try.
guessing that we're gonna see very
No,
little.
no, you're gonna see very little.
And the generator is for backup if there is no solar, no sun, and the hydro can't work as well. So there's only a few days of that in every year that might really be needed. The Raquel's coming?
Another winkle.
I can hold it maybe.
I can hold it.
קרקו.
זה שמת קסטה
Okay,
חדשה,
so
כן?
אוי ואבוי.
the generator is used occasionally in that period of time when in the late fall, when it's begun to get rainy, but the creek hasn't picked up enough to provide hydro. So it's usually used around November, December, maybe once a week for a few hours during that period of time, once every couple of weeks for a few hours, something like that. Once every 10 to 14 days for a few hours from like late November through December, if we haven't had enough sufficient rain by that time. Usually by around late December, there's sufficient rain that the hydroelectricity kicks in.
It's not sufficient rain, from the other end it's sufficient cloud to cloud that you don't have
The
enough
cloud,
sun.
combined with the fact that the sun is now
Low,
is
very
low
low.
in the sky, it's caught in the treetops. It's not providing us quite enough
What
solar.
latitude are we here?
Right here we're at 38. That's correct. And so these are the batteries. This is the little battery bank. Not so little battery bank.
How many amps hours and you have here?
Yeah, well we have 12 batteries. Each of them are 6 volt. So there's, we have 3 24 volt batteries. That's what we have. And they're 350 amp hours each. So, they're 3 times 350 amp hours
So it's
at
1,000
24 volts.
Right. So it's 1,050 amps hour.
Okay. And originally I had 16. And those lasted for 12 years. My first set lasted for 12 years. And it just seemed like more batteries than I really needed.
Did you have to maintain them? Are they maintained? Do you have? They're not sealed, right? Are they?
They're
sealed?
not sealed, but they have these hydrocaps on them, which are really slick.
Hydrocap.
Yeah, they take the bubbling gases, and they take the oxygen and the hydrogen of the gases that are produced, and they combine that into water again and
Put them
allow it to
back.
drip back in. So I almost never have to add water to these batteries. They are so maintenance free.
So it's really
It's like maybe once a year I need to look at their water levels. And I may top them off, but it's they really need so little maintenance.
And how come there's 3 of them, of those caps? That's the way it is, 3 caps?
Each cell is 2 volts. So you've got three cells for a 6-volt battery. Each of these batteries is a 6-volt battery. Each cap represents a cell, a 2-volt cell.
Okay, got it.
And so
Yeah, maybe you'll hold that light, so wherever you're aiming your camera,
I can.
he should hold it, because then he'll be aiming it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So
so
what is that? I think this is got to do with
that's a
that.
hydrometer. It's a way of testing the specific gravity.
We learned about the hydrometer
Yeah.
in class. Okay,
Okay.
let's see.
Specific gravity we learn also.
Yeah, and so it measures specific gravity, and it just means that when the battery is fully charged, this float will float higher in the fluid level.
This actually, I'll picture it, I'll photograph it outside. It would be better because it's hard to see. Maybe I'll do it later.
Okay.
So,
So specific gravity, and it tells us the levels of discharge or charge
That's right.
of the battery.
And so here's the inverter.
oh, that's being
This is the original inverter. It lasted for probably about 18 years or maybe 17 years, and it was still working. It just it was not working on standby. In other words, it was on all the time, and it was either on or it was off. And so I could have it on all the time, and I was using it in that way, but I liked having a standby. And then this new alternator here, and this new inverter has a powerful battery charger. So when I do run the generator, it's very efficient. It charges the batteries quickly.
How many watts is this inverter?
This is a 5,000 watt inverter.
That's a nice big, and it's a battery-tied inverter, right? Which is different than
battery
on
only.
the grid.
Yeah,
Which
that's
bat-
right. That's right. This is meant for a battery.
Can you maybe play with the display to show us kind of the statistics of what's running and what's there?
No, I'd have to read about it. You know, I wouldn't want to start messing with it right now.
okay.
I'd have to get out my paperwork.
Okay.
Because I don't mess with it. You know, the search watts, I can just tell you right now. Search watts is 16. That's what's showing right
What
now.
does it mean search in this
That
case?
means the inverter, as you can hear this little hum, it's on because Asi is charging his, what is it,
Cell
your
phone.
telephone battery, your cell phone battery. And remember, we turned on something, another thing, just to reach the minimum 16 watts so that the inverter would stay on in order to charge his cell phone. So, so if you turn on some kind of a power draw that is, let's say, 8 watts, it won't be enough to turn this on. You want to have so it will send out a little pulse into the system every second or so just to see if there's anything on. And then when it detects that something is on, it will come on. But if you set it too sensitively, like for 2 watts or something like that, you can get a little moisture in the air, and it would just come on. So I like to have it at a certain, I could possibly drop that a little bit lower, but that's been pretty good for us.
So this is the disconnect, this is the DC disconnect, or you don't have, well, we do have AC here actually. Tell us a little bit about the different circuit. And
here's the big power, the big load fuse right here.
That's a DC?
This is DC, yeah. Big DC load.
What are those two golden thing? What is
These
this?
are fuses.
Those are the fuses.
Those are 2 big fuses.
Okay.
So that comes from the array that's before the inverter?
This is coming between the battery and the inverter.
Okay.
And then the this fuse here is for the array. So between the solar panels and the batteries.
And what's above it?
And this is the charge controller, which
the array.
for the array, so that I don't overcharge the batteries. And this is one that's designed to be used with hydro. I could set it up in such a way that it will divert power off. If I get excess power from the hydro, I can divert it off to my water heater. For example, I have an electrical
You have
water heater as
diversion.
part of the system,
Uh-huh.
and it could be utilized in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have it set up. I don't have it set up that way right now,
But it's
because I monitor the voltage coming out of the hydro myself, and I simply shut it off when I see that it's getting excessive. You have a couple of days time to make that decision. It's,
So how do you know now if you're charged? Where do you see the state of charge of the batteries?
the state of charge of the batteries. These meters are very old, and two of them are no longer functional. But that center one does have volts. But I don't usually come out here. I have instead I have a voltmeter, a digital voltmeter in the house.
Okay.
It is my main source of information.
Okay.
It's more handy than coming out here. I rarely come out here.
Oh, what is this thing?
Okay, this thing, let's just step back and take a more overall view for a second, because I hadn't quite finished with what's going on in here.
Okay.
And here we have the DC fuses. And this is the fuse box. Kind of ugly, but it's the fuse box for the DC circuits in the house. And I run a number of things off DC. For instance, most of the lights are DC, and also the refrigerator is DC.
That's what
This over here is the AC fuses, and we have a number of AC circuits as well. And so you've got power coming in from the array. It's being regulated, and it's charging the batteries. From the batteries, it goes directly into the DC fuses and into the house, into the DC circuits.
Without the inverter.
Without the inverter. And then the inverter, there's power that goes into the inverter, and then
From the batteries.
from the batteries, and then from the inverter into the AC fuses, and then there's a series of AC circuits. This little unit here taps into a portion of the battery bank, and allows me to have one circuit that is 12 volt. So I have 3 different voltages happening in the house.
Circuits. 3 different circuits.
No, I have a number of circuits. I have maybe, I don't know, 8, 10 circuits. But I have, let's say, 4 circuits of DC. I have maybe 4 circuits of AC. But I have one circuit that is 12 volt. The other DC circuits are 24 volt. So I have one circuit that's 12 volt that allows me to run a car stereo system in the house, a very nice car stereo system, and a telephone answering machine.
Which are 12 volt originally.
Those are both 12 volts things.
DC.
DC, 12 volt.
Directly, you say that's what this thing does. The converter, solar.
Yeah,
It's
this
converts
little
from the
converter
24 to 12
allows
actually.
me to take off of the 24 and to have one circuit that is a 12 volt circuit, and to allow the batteries to maintain an equal. It doesn't discharge the batteries unequally. It allows them to maintain an equal charge.
Just a parenthesis, we learned that in the batteries, it's very important that the length of the wires will be always the same. And is it something
Between the
that's
connectors, you mean in the bank?
Is it
You don't want to have one
Imbalances.
battery getting more discharge than the other batteries. You want them to maintain a very, you want them to be very equal. You don't want to have one old battery in a bank of otherwise newer batteries. You want to maintain a real equal state in all of the batteries, or that weakest link is going to bring down power.
Usually you turn it off?
It's always off. It's on standby, which means that if there's a slight draw,
Right.
then it will kick itself on.
Okay, that's
And
the
it
way it
uses
works.
much less power in standby than if it were on all the time.
But then,
Some appliances. So here's a refrigerator, and this is probably the most efficient refrigerator on the market. This brand Sunfrost here, and these are hand built in Northern California, and they have a very thick insulation, and the freezer is small on this model, very thick, insulated. The working parts are on the top of the refrigerator rather than in the back or underneath,
so the heat goes?
so that the heat rises away from what you're trying to refrigerate.
And what are the prices per cubic feet? How does it work usually?
Well, prices you'd have to look at
Yeah,
the catalog.
okay.
This one we bought, we bought this 20 years ago.
This is 20-year-old and it's working perfectly.
It's working fine, and I don't believe we're going to have to buy another refrigerator in our lifetime.
Can you hear that? What about this
So it's
planned obsolescence? How they call now? There is the term. They make it to be obsolete on purpose.
Yeah.
So I guess this company didn't hear about this term.
This is such a good
concept.
fridge, and part of the reason that it will last so long is that it's a very gently operating thing. It doesn't require a lot of power. It doesn't have to be on. It doesn't have to run a big motor. It runs a small motor, and it's on a fraction of the amount of
it's
time.
insulated very, very
Yeah,
good,
that's
right?
right. It's not on as much as other refrigerators.
Why? Does it have a special motor?
Insulated.
It's insulated.
It's insulated well.
Yeah.
So you don't lose the cold that you
That's
generated so easily, so
Yeah.
you don't need to work the motor.
And it's not warming
Also-
itself at the same time it's trying to, keep
Because it
itself cold.
disperses the heat,
That's
as you
right.
explained on the top.
And it's
That's
a
right.
24 volt, which that's a very unique thing also.
Oh, it's a 24 volt
motor.
It's 24 volt. Yeah, it's a DC refrigerator.
DC
And
refrigerator.
we said
Yes.
about 2 amps.
I think it's around 2.5 amps, something like
Which
that.
is also very low, relatively.
Yeah, I'd have to check
You
to
check-
see
check, yeah,
because I'm
maybe.
not 100%
Yeah,
sure.
You don't
The
remember? It
stats are
was 20
certainly
years
there,
ago.
But do I have them at my
No, okay,
fingertips?
it's okay.
No.
Yeah. In the Outback, we have the, in the Outback, the book.
This is our car radio, our car stereo system, and this is the CD that we bought last night. And we have our speakers, car stereo speakers there. This is a 12 volt system, and our telephone answering machine is also 12 volt. These are things that we just evolved over time. We've been living with the system for 20 years, so we have a sense of what's working well for us. And we had difficulty with having another stereo system running on DC without having some problems until we just went with the car stereo system at 12 volts.
The light.
It's nice to have DC on your stereo system because it's a nice clean electricity and the sound tends to be good. This
Better,
light,
huh? This is better, direct, better for
It
sound
is
than
certainly for running the home stereo system off of solar. It's really nice to go DC. Now that they have the sine wave inverters, okay, that probably is fine. But our first inverter was not a sine wave inverter. It was a modified square wave, a modified sine wave. So this light is also a 12 volt light. It's the other light that we have, the other thing that ended up being on the same circuit as that circuit was just the same one.
And inside what?
In there we have some quartz lights. Those are the ones that we found worked well for the DC, in this lighting application. Otherwise we were...
So it's not the compact fluorescent?
It's not a compact fluorescent.
It's how you call it? Quartz?
It's a quartz light.
Quartz light.
Quartz light. There are some new 12-volt compact fluorescents that may work very well in this application.
And we learned about a LED.
LED.
LED?
Yeah, one.
LEDs. I do have one LED that's on all the time. If it were nighttime, you would see this LED that streaks across the ceiling.
You're joking,
That-
right?
No, I'm not.
No, no.
What do you mean?
Small LED.
It's a small LED that's up there.
You need a chair. or
If you
something.
stand on a chair, you might see that it's on all the time.
Wow.
There it is.
So
We
what?
live in the forest. We have tons of firewood. There's always, every year, there's some little clearing project that needs to occur. There's massive amounts of wood that's being produced on these 40 acres every year. And the amount that we burn is a very tiny fraction of what's actually grown on this land every year.
Do you always have to cut, or do you also look for kind of stuff that fell off naturally?
Yeah, oftentimes, a tree has fallen across the road, we have to cut it. Or there's something that's died, a tree has died and, needs to be cut. But occasionally we have some little expansion thing that we need to actually do some clearing of some live trees. And there's fire protection that needs to be done around the house. As we're getting into a drier climate, we need to think more about fire protection. And
Oh yeah, this year.
so we need to do more clearing to protect the house from wildfire.
Do you hunt your own meat with you see all these bows?
I don't hunt meat. I have been known to pick meat up off the road that's already been killed. But and I have hunted, but I haven't actually killed anything with the bows. And we got a little bit of amps coming in from the hydro. This is the amps. There's an extra digit that pops up occasionally, which is meaningless. It's fluctuating right now between, let's say, 10 and 13 amps. Or 14. And this is amps going out. And so that's like 1.2.
Oh, so you have a
coming
little
out.
switch that you put?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a little switch to show amps coming in, amps going out.
Cool.
And this is our composting toilet,
Okay.
which we shit in a bucket, in a 5-gallon bucket, which we then carry out to a compost pile when it gets full. As the idea of shitting into water that's been brought at great expense from the mountains, pure, clean mountain water brought to the city or to other areas, and then only to be purified usually by some chemical process of purification. And then you shit in it, and then you take that water and you pipe it out to some facility where then you have to, at great expense and much chemical processes, try to then separate the shit from the water again, so that you can find a place where you can dump that water where it would be, where it wouldn't create an environmental problem, and then find some way of getting rid of the shit. Instead of doing that, you simply compost the shit, and you use aerobic composting methods rather than anaerobic composting methods, like a sewer system.
Meaning what? Aerobic meaning? Say it again.
Aerobic is
the presence of oxygen.
In the presence of oxygen. This is these are wood shavings that we
wood shavings.
use to like a litter box, like a human litter box, and with the shit and the urine and the wood shavings and some straw that we use in the actual compost pile,
Walter, it's all good and well, but where are the pipes? Where the water goes?
The water?
No, that's a joke. That was a joke. All your explanation is great, but where is the flushing?
The flush.
Where is the flush? It's all great, but how do I flush? So basically what you're saying is that the bucket, you simply, there is a bucket that you take out and you throw into the woods.
We don't throw it into the woods. We compost it.
You compost it into the
into a
in the
compost
woods.
pile.
Compost pile that is
Yes.
separate, in this case, from the composting that you do for the garden, right?
That's correct.
It's two different composts.
Yes.
But some can, I mean, it's not
After
absurd.
we compost we'll build a pile, and it may take a year of adding buckets every 8 days or 10 days or so. We'll take a bucket out to the compost pile, and it may take a year of that before the compost is really full, and then we'll begin adding to a different compost pile. And when the second one is full, maybe a couple years later or a year or two later, then we'll take the first pile, and it will be completely devoid of any harmful bacteria by that time, and we can spread it around flower beds or such. It doesn't have any appearance of having any shit in it, and it's a good source of usable compost.
Is it in a bucket or in a container? Or is it in the open or is it in a hole in the
Let's
ground? Okay.
Let's look.
Walter, I like the, you have a staple, how you say, a phrase that you say, here is what we do. We take clean water, what we do in the city. Take clean water and we shit in it. Can you later say that?
Oh, I didn't say that clearly.
No, you gave the explanation, but you have a slogan, a 1 or 2 sentence condensed version of it, of what we do in our modern age, in our cities. Which to us sounds the most logical thing to do, obviously.
Odie is in the house, I guess.
Yeah, we didn't look at him, huh? You want to go back to make sure he's okay?
No, I think we're okay momentarily here.
Walter, you still have time for this? You don't have to do other things?
No, this is exactly the most important thing I could possibly dream of doing.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And so here is our compost area for our shit.
When you say shit, you mean human excrements?
That's an awfully big word. I really don't know what you're talking about when you say that. But here we take the bucket and we throw it into this pile. We rinse the bucket and we pour the water back onto the pile. And this pile has recently become full. Actually, after 3 years, it took 3 years to really make this pile full. And so now we just took out the old pile that was here, and I used the compost, and now I'm beginning to build another compost pile here. I just layered it with a lot of straw and such, so that it has kind of a base.
How is the smell here right now?
Do you smell anything?
I don't smell. I smell just beautiful wood, forest smell.
Isn't it amazing?
Nothing.
It's the remarkable thing about aerobic composting versus anaerobic composting. You try to compost things in water where it doesn't get oxygen, and you get stink, you get smells, terrible smells. You can get smells out of this, but typically it's not bad, and you won't smell it for more than 10 feet or so at its worst. And
also because you add all the shavings, right? That's really kind of...
Certainly in the composting toilet itself, as soon as you add those shavings, it seals up the stink. You don't get the stink that you think you might get from a bucket that's got a pile of shit in it. It's just not going to have that stink. There's something about just covering it up with shavings that just seals that in. And so, here we are, we're standing here. There's a light breeze, but there's just nothing to be smelled about this pile of shit. it's protected from heavy rain. This is where we pile our straw that we use to cover the shit when we need to. That's our system.
Cool.
And
So-
so yes, and so why take, you know, beautiful, clean, pure water that comes from the mountains, some wild river somewhere, and pipe it to the city, and then add chemicals to it to purify it, and only to shit in it, and then at some great expense pipe it somewhere else to some other place where you're going to then try to separate out, again at great expense, using a very chemical toxic process, a very polluting process, the shit from the water. And then you have the problem of the shit and you have the problem of the water, both of which are very polluting and difficult problems to deal with.
Walter, also we see from here the back of the house, so we can see the panels that are a little bit protruding on top.
Yes.
Oh, can you? Yeah. Just, you don't have any wind factor that is.
Are we keeping? Yeah, I just want to kind of keep an eye on Bodhi.
Yeah.
Here's how a hydrometer works. Is we're testing the specific gravity of each cell. One of the things that you look for, I'm going to try to draw up enough so that it actually floats.
What needs to float?
So it's floating.
What's floating?
This little unit right here is floating. This float.
The float floats?
The float, and it's floating. You can see that it's in the white level, which means that it's, you know, it's in reasonably good condition. It's not great. It's not in the good area. But what we're looking for more than what actual area it's in is how it compares to all the other cells. If you have one that's significantly different, then it signals a problem with the batteries. And so as the battery gets charged, it's going to float this float higher in its fluid. And so it would be more in the green. You got that?
Okay,
And
so the more it the more
it gets charged, the heavier of a liquid it is.
Oh,
In that process
yeah,
as well. I don't know the actual chemical.
okay, so okay, I'll explain it. Salts, or in this case, sulfuric acid, but there is more of it in solution, and as a consequence,
It's heavier.
it's heavier, and whatever body floats in it will be able to rise. Basically, the example that the comparison would be, where do you float better, in seawater or in lake water?
Yeah.
And the answer is you float better in seawater because it's heavier. There is more salt in it.
So I'm going to rinse this out.
Cool.
Proper maintenance of this stairs, both the treads and the risers, as well as the ceiling and that wall here, were milled from wood that we milled from the trees that were growing on this in this area when we cleared for the house. And humble abode that we built, basically myself with help from Raquel. A couple of times I had got help from my brother on a couple of days. And once I had somebody help me lift the heaviest wall. And on the day that we poured the concrete, we got kind of a group of guys. We had a little picnic, and the truck came, poured concrete. But otherwise, it was built by myself. And and so there we were. There was a time when we were on the cover of Home Power magazine.
Really?
Do you know
Are you
Home Power
serious? I
magazine?
just got the latest one.
You do?
Yeah, and you guys were on the
We
cover
were
of
on the
it?
cover of an early
No
Home Power
fucking
magazine, and I think we have one here still.
You know what? I have the DVD. I gave it to Grant, but I
On the cover of Home Power magazine. And this came out during the first Gulf War. The older George Bush's Gulf War. This came out, and so it came out at a particular moment in time when there was a need to begin to understand the impacts of our energy consumption
why we go to wars and
and
such.
why, well, yeah, you know.
The two panels are different made.
Those
here.
are the old, yeah. They were actually both Arcos, but Arco was switching from this, I believe, into this. And so at the moment that we got those panels, that's what they looked like.
Wow.
And so the house is a little more primitive there. The deck was not finished. We didn't have a fence. Our dog and cat were still with us. My hair was still blonde. And so there was Home Power, and
You never told me. I know you forever, and you never mentioned it.
well, had a pretty small distribution
I know.
at that time. It was a pretty minor thing, and it's in many ways, and this has happened. It seems like several times in my lifetime where I've gotten into something that's kind of ahead of the wave, and then by the time the wave is really large, it's like I've moved on to other things. And so I still live in a house that is solar powered. At a time I was trying to make a lot of, I was trying to talk a lot more about solar power at that time, but there wasn't a very large audience for hearing that as there might be at this time. I tried to set myself up as a, as a solar installer. You know, some 15 years ago. And it was kind of before the time when that was really possible.
Now, if you want, you could do so many things if you were interested.
Yeah.
You would have to travel closer to where more people live and less
That's
trees
difficult.
live.
That would be difficult
Yeah.
because I would have to leave my beautiful home,
Yeah.
which is really the essence of that whole lifestyle.
Right. What do you see from...
So, you know, one of the...
Go ahead, I'm just...
Yeah, one of the important lessons for me in getting set up as an off-grid system is the idea that the economics of conservation are so much stronger than the economics of energy production. Is typically we're trying to always increase production because we have an ever-increasing need for power. But it's like trying to fill a bucket that's leaking, and it's leaking with huge holes in it. First, see where you can patch those holes. Look for how you can use less power before you start thinking about increasing production. Solar panels are not cheap. All of these systems are not cheap. Conservation is the most sensitive first step to try to make this all work economically. Our system is very small. We have a very small system. You know, we have 4 solar panels. It's more than enough. In combination with that little hydroelectric system that we saw earlier, it's more than enough. We don't need more than that. But it's because we've gotten down to a lifestyle where we have everything that we need, but we're not wasteful with things. We see what appliances are efficient and which are not. And the ones that are not are things that tend to generate a lot of heat that require resistors that produce heat, such as electric heaters or
Say it again. I missed that last part. Sorry. Can you repeat what you said about the resistor?
Yeah, there's ways of using electricity that are inherently inefficient. And those ways are usually ways of using some type of a resistor to produce heat. So, for instance, a microwave, but using electricity to heat requires running it through some type of a resistor, which then becomes very hot, and that's a terribly consuming use of power. You know, for instance, a toaster, which doesn't seem to use very much power, probably uses the same as my table saw. My table saw is a very big and powerful and loud thing, but it's typically not on for a long time. Neither is the toaster. But a wall heater, or worse, or in the same category, like an oven or a stove, an electric stove or an electric oven, is going to use a tremendous amount of electrical power. And so electric heaters, electric stoves, and even toasters and hair dryers we've left off. We try not to include those types of appliances. Electric motors, those are very efficient. It's a very efficient use of power. You can get a lot of work done with an electric motor.
As an example?
As an example?
What example do you have of an
blender.
electric motor?
You know, you can have a blender, for instance, that uses almost no power. It's a motor. It uses almost no power. And power it's used is very efficient. We have a computer, we have a laptop. Laptops are becoming the norm now, and they're much more efficient than the old desktops. But I think all the new computers are pretty power efficient. Yeah.
And with all those skylights, there is also talk about being conserving energy by passive letting the how is the term?
Yeah, passive solar. Passive solar.
So did you, when you designed the house?
One of the drawbacks to our including a lot of that in our design is the fact that we're pretty deep in the forest. And but it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, and I highly recommend for anyone who do live in normally sunny areas, or even areas that don't necessarily get a lot of sun, but are not in the deep forest. So that you do, when the sun is out, it's you don't have a lot of obstruction to your view of the sun. And that is to include passive solar, some sort of passive solar design in your house. And the passive solar would include thermal mass, some form of concrete, water, tile, stone, that would absorb the heat of the sun during the day and would continually radiate that during the night. And that can be used in such a way that when the sun is low in the sky, such as in the wintertime, that sun will be shining down into the house, warming your thermal mass and giving you a source of heat for the 24-hour day. And that during the winter, the summertime, if you have an overhang to your windows in the summer, then the sun would not shine into the house during the day, and that same thermal mass would act as a cooling element, so that you would not have the need for cooling your house.
You want to show us outside the here,
The
there's
deck?
the deck?
Yeah. So here's a little deck that is also all home-milled wood. And
How do you get on the roof? I know it's not for now, but when you need to go?
we
to
go
do
around the back.
Oh, okay, with
Yeah,
the ladder.
With a ladder.
If I
Would
do
you like
this,
to get up there?
usually that's what solar people do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a. You think I captured it from here?
You could do this too, because it's pretty stable. If you just get up here, you could hang on to here. And you could just look right from here, and you got a pretty good view of the roof. Why don't you? It was, huh?
It goes to an extreme zoom, so but now it's good.
So 20 years ago, when we built this house, I went to solar power because it was impossible to think about bringing the power to this site. It's a quarter mile from the nearest power line, and to do that would have cost an enormous amount of money, and I would have had to cut a huge swath through the forest in order to run power lines down here. And so that was the main reason that we stepped into solar power in the first place. But there was other reasons, and those other reasons had to do with the fact that the oil companies were looking at putting out huge oil rigs out just off the coast of Point Arena, because they discovered that there's oil reserves off the shore here. And it just seemed like an inevitability that our shoreline would be ruined, that we were enjoying a precious moment of beautiful beaches before that ruin would occur. But then there was public hearings held about these occurrences, about these plans, and at those public meetings, people, and so many people, spoke incredibly elegantly about the impacts of these oil rigs that these oil rigs would have on our coastline, and it was such a powerful display of public sentiment that the feds had to take notice, and the president decided that no offshore oil drilling would occur here for some extended period of time. A ban was placed on offshore oil drilling off the California coast.
Who was the president?
The president at that time was, I believe, George Bush.
Senior.
The original George Bush. This was in 1983, or no, probably 1984. I think he had just been elected president in 1984. And this is a chuck-it stick, and it uses the energy of the arm, and you place a ball there at the end, and so the energy of the arm, because of its length, is like doubled. So you get that thing going like about, I don't know, not only do you get like twice the length of the arm, but I think it's like It's some kind of a ratio.
multiplier. There is a multiplier
There's
effect.
a multiplier in there, so you can get that ball going way farther than you would otherwise. It's amazing.
Is it a lever thing
It's
working
kind of
here?
like that. Yeah, like, lever or something. You got it, Bodie. You got it.
Oh. We'll have to help him with that. Bodhi!
I'll get it for him. Not our dog. But we borrow dogs from other people and they actually pay us to do that. It's a really cool thing. And we get to play with them at the same time.
That will take him 3 minutes, hopefully.
And we've learned to dance tango. It's another cool thing where now I was first exposed to the idea of using solar power by a guy who was a surfer and lived in a bus on a piece of land that he bought south of here, maybe 10 miles. And he had a solar panel that ran some little lights in his school bus, and he had another panel that ran hot water for him. And it looked so elegant, so independent, so direct. And that was another element I was looking for in my life, directness. I'd always liked that element of you need something, create it for yourself. See if you can first create that element rather than always looking for the way of getting enough money to pay for what you need. Because when you look for getting enough money to pay for what you need, you always need a better job which is going to separate you more from all the other things that you could be doing for yourself that would provide your needs directly. In other words, if I want to, I could have the choice of buying a house or building one. And I saved enormous amounts of money by building a house. This land is on 40 acres. It's 40 acres of beautiful forest. In 1987, it cost $65,000. I don't even know if you can, well, people nowadays should know the math. We built this house for probably $20,000, including the solar power system. And so it's always a way to look at what I can do. I was an auto mechanic, and so it was a way for me as a teenager to know that I was going to be able to economically own a car, knowing that I would be able to fix it as an auto mechanic. It was one of the motivations for becoming an auto mechanic. I learned to build a house. I built a house. I learned to grow food so I wouldn't have to buy as much food. I learned about solar. I learned about plumbing. I learned about electricity. I learned about all the elements that a person might otherwise have to pay somebody else to do for them if they live in the city, let's say, and have a job that keeps them busy most of the time. And so oftentimes we have those choices. How much can we provide for ourselves versus what we might do for money in order so that we can afford all the things that we want. And when we do have that job, and we've gotten that job that does pay us enough money, we often find that what we most desire, what we dream about, what we would like in our deepest desires if we had the most money that we could possibly get, a little place in the country with a little garden, and I would hear these stories, and I would understand the absurdity of this strange thing, that it's possible to go more directly to.
I'm trying all the time to think how it can apply, at least partially, to us, most of us city dwellers? What can we do? You know, I'm looking at the LA, and in the beginning I thought, well, if there is a big earthquake, as they usually say, the scenario is if there is an earthquake, it's going to be mayhem because we are not sustainable. Food is coming into the city by the truckload all the time. But then a few days later, keep thinking about it, I was looking around and I thought, look how much space there is between homes. We have sun most of the year. Water is a little bit short, but it's coming right now from Northern California. But there is so much room to make such beautiful gardens. And even in winter with a little greenhouse, Los Angeles can be a garden, self-sustained garden.
It's a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of living in a city, is the truth of this is that this has a lot of beauty in it, but it's a certain isolationist attitude. It involves community, and here in Point Arena, as you know, there's a very deep sense of community. We are not isolationists. We here in this town have a great sense of community. You saw a woman stop by here earlier and brought us kefir from her goats.
Oh, that's what it is.
She raises goats. She brought us some of her produce because we have shared with her in the past. And so we have a sense of community, and we're sharing food. That can be multiplied beautifully in the city. It's the challenge of a city now to do that, and to take the interests that many people have and the talents that many people have developed in these very specialized fields, and apply them not just in a small community where everyone has to really do everything for themselves, but to join together with many, many people to create really creative solutions for a very large number of people.
Yeah, starting with the principle of bartering, for example.
Yeah.
No, without, as you were saying, without the necessity to always exchange those pieces of paper called money.
Maybe.
Like I know to do something, you know to do something else, and etc.
That's been tried here in a smaller scale.
Yeah.
It's been tried, Mendocino bucks, and it's been tried in other places, and it's precarious.
Yeah.
There's something about money that's pretty functional.
Yeah.
And there's been attempts to try to localize that more. Localization can be a beautiful thing.
Somebody is Raquel. Not coincidentally, driving a Prius, the first kind of Prius, the smaller one, the not pretentious one, the cute one.
Where were we? Hello.
Hi. We were talking.
Back from a hard. Oh, look who's here! Hey, go get it!
So, gosh, I had a point there I wanted to make.
About the fact that money is very easy and it has a good lure to it because it makes, more than barter, that is how you keep track of who gave what to who and how much of it. With money it's easier to, obviously, but you know what? An intelligent guy once gave a friend of mine a very simple advice: start small. Like,
yeah.
And personally, that's what I'm trying to do with in the city. There is a guy that wants me to help him to put up a website. At the same time, I need a plumber to take care of something in a department where I live. There is a guy in class that is a plumber and is looking for a job. The first guy, the one that wants me to design the website for him, he's working right now in a solar company part-time. So I was thinking, if I can help the plumber find a job in solar, at the same time do the website for this third guy, and basically there is a way to tie the three things. Each one gives and gets something from another person, and it's a little bit, it's one step more than the direct barter. I give you something and you give me something. It involves one extra person.
Well, I think that,
So-
that this is some of where the promise of the internet comes in.
Yeah.
Because we now have means of instant communication, and so so the potential for finding a proper match for needs and abilities is being accelerated, and we haven't explored the full potential of what the internet can possibly provide in that. Although maybe I'm naive, maybe we really are maximizing that potential as we speak,
What
because
do you
all
mean?
kinds of things are happening on the internet, and commerce is happening on the internet. For instance, banking. You know, banking has become much. People are borrowing and loaning money on the internet and bypassing the banking institutions that have collapsed.
But even before the collapse, it's been going on, right?
It's been going on for some time. People who have money and would like to loan it at a reasonable interest rate are loaning it to people who need to borrow and would like to borrow at a reasonable interest rate. And they're able to negotiate. And they're able to negotiate via the internet, and people who have money and people who need money are exchanging money, bypassing large centralized organizations. And I think this whole thing of the decentralization of power and finances is another important survival skill for human beings as a species, because this whole centralization of power, where we give the banks the power to loan money, we give the corporations the power to sell us goods, and the governments the power to give us all our rules, then these things become fragile. Oftentimes they're top heavy. As we can see, they're
Not sustainable.
they're not sustainable. They don't have the foundation that would keep them alive.
And it concentrates wealth in the money of few.
That's right.
What the fuck?
It's not democratic.
It's not democratic.
So the internet has a marvelous capacity to give us this way of interchanging our abilities with our needs, and provide connections with people who have money, who might need money. It might also help in transportation. Transportation is the largest energy consumer that I know of. Maybe there's bigger energy consumers, but driving our vehicles is something that really consumes a lot of power. And people are driving long distances as single people in fairly large automobiles, where there's already been suggestion that the internet can help with this, that the internet can help link people who need to move from one place to another with those who are already going in those places. We just need to fine-tune these things. And so this is how people living in the city can help to do the kind of thing that people, in these more rural areas have been looking at and been thinking about for some time.
Yeah, there is a feeling that of change in the air, right? Things are moving.
Change. It's exciting. It's exciting things that are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be scary,
For you, it could be the least scary, my friend.
I don't,
You shouldn't be scared. We in the
guess I've
city should
spent-
be scared.
I've spent many decades preparing for winds of change,
Yeah.
only to find that perhaps, these winds of change are really the exciting place to be.
There you
that
go.
you want to step out with your sail in the middle of these winds and see where they might carry you. You don't want to hide from them. You don't want to protect yourself from them.
But navigate
you want
carefully.
You want to dive into the middle of that. You want to ride that wave. There's this exciting wave going on. We want to be there. We want to participate in that.
Good. We need some good solar installers in LA. Come over. 1 month every 3 months.
My garden, look, it doesn't look like much right now because it needs work, but who would take care of it? What about those collards? They need to be harvested and eaten, the kale.
We can do an exchange, a barter. Somebody that is dying to come to the countryside, you'll tell them exactly what they need to do.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah? Would you go for it? But this is not the real garden. This is just a home garden. The
We
real
should go-
garden is upstairs,
we'll
right?
go look.
Is higher in
Yeah.
the ground.
We should go look.
Okay.
But we'll have to leave Bodhi here. I'll talk to
Okay.
you.
For you guys, I want to do some Chinese food.
The trees, when they're cut or they're burned, they'll sprout trees around them. So here's the original tree, eh? All that's left is a burned snag.
So what?
There's nets over the cherry trees so that the birds don't get the cherries. The birds are very determined to get the cherries. And the only way to get cherries is to have these nets over there. The spring equinox has just taken place, so things are still pretty crude here. But you can see a nice cover crop that's taken off in this area of the garden with these tall grains interspersed with some fava beans and some vetch. Let's go look at the fruit trees. These plums have just finished a very strong bloom. They really look beautiful in their full bloom. But they're done now. And it looks like the next thing that's coming up is pears in the next succession. They're starting to bloom. This plum still has a few flowers on it. And then the apples will start to bloom sometime after the pears, I guess. And this,
Fava?
there's some fava beans taking off here. More importantly, a nice cover of clover is starting to take over in here. And
Because
I'm
it
very
fixes the
pleased about
nitrogen.
that. It fixes nitrogen, yeah. I've been seeding this for some time, and I'm starting to get a really, some patches. And these patches will gradually spread over the whole area. There's areas where, even though it's small, it's taking off. You see that it's starting to come out in really nice dense patches. The clover.
So it will help the trees.
It'll help the trees. Yeah, it'll end up just being a nice green pasture-like surface, and the trees will receive nitrogen from that. And it'll be good. These plums are delicious. We have, I don't know, at least half a dozen varieties of plums here. We got like 5, 6 varieties of apples. We got 4 or 5 varieties of cherries. Those are the main tree fruits that produce well. We have some other tree fruits that don't produce as well. And this is all blueberries. We got 30 blueberry plants in here. These were rows of blackberries and raspberries that produced really heavily when they were producing well. We took them out so we could renew the soil, and someday we'll put them back. In the meantime, we're growing cover crops on there, and we'll grow some vegetables probably in here. Look at that nice grain head. That's probably a barley. That's probably a barley. I seeded some different grains in here, and it's pretty to see them. There's the fava beans. The solar panel pumps water to a tank in the highest part of the land.
It's like 10 years old already, no?
This panel,
Yeah. I mean, now I see those round wafers with such a big distance between each one of them. I'm like, okay.
no, this is
now
this is a later generation.
Later generation?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it may be getting close to 10 years already. It's hard for me to exactly estimate. Let's say, yeah, I'm going to have to say it's probably about 10 years. Nice clover taking off in certain areas here. A line of kiwis. Got a line of kiwis there.
Where?
This is kiwis.
Oh, this is
Again,
kiwi.
everything is in. It's just turning springtime here, so things are not really the full garden fullness that you might like to see. Here's a bed of garlic, nice patch of clover, and cilantro coming up right in. That's reseeded itself, so that's just taking over wild. Kale that's going to seed.
Those are fig trees, right?
Little fig trees in the pots. Here my nephew helped me prepare this bed yesterday. And here's a bed of onions. Farmer John helped me
Pick the variety.
well, no, he actually started these onion plants
He
for
has
me.
time to come and help you.
No, he didn't come here. He gave me the plants.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah. And he started the plants. This is rhubarb. Those are a couple of cherry trees. There's an apple tree behind there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of gooseberries. And 1, 2, 3 rows of currants.
Those are currants in the
Yeah.
background.
Watch out for these gooseberries because they're thorny like all get out. And
So all winter there were no leaves. It was just the.
that's right, they were dormant. So they're
Uh-huh.
just now getting some leaves. Both the gooseberries with their tiny little leaves and these currants with their larger leaves.
And they don't need a bed. It's flat here, huh?
There's a bed there, but it's pretty flat. You don't really see it much anymore.
Interesting.
And there's some other things that have been planted. They're a little bit experimental here. These are aronia, apparently a very highly productive berry. high in vitamin C. Trader Joe's is now selling Aronia juice. And the rabbits loved these bushes and repeatedly came and chomped on them last year. So I'm going to hope to grow them, but we'll have to see. This there is a honeysuckle berry plant. And I have only one out of the 3 or 4 that I planted here that looks like it's... No, I got this one here and this one here looks alive. The others might start to come out of their dormancy. We'll see. If not, I'll start a couple more. And this is a row of sea buckthorn. And sea buckthorn is a delicious orange berry. And it looks like they're all doing well.
Orange
Yeah, 1,
color
2, 3,
berry?
4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these.
The color of this berry is orange?
They're orange. They're about the size of a small cherry tomato. They've got like a passion fruit flavor, like this wonderful combination of acid, sweetness, flavor, and they just grow like covering a bush. And they should grow, you know, like 6 feet high. They're just getting started. I have not, you know, they haven't started to produce
They
yet.
look very different. This
One hasn't started to grow leaves yet. This one has
Why?
leafed out.
Does it have less? Is it a different variety?
It's
or
not. It's just a week or 2 behind this one. That's
Wow. Look at the difference. Also, this one is kind of behind.
it. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so this and that is different states of... Wow.
Yes.
Oh, and there is a lot of... spider. It's full of black spiders. I saw a few running around there.
Yeah.
And this, again, you leave it for as a fertilizer?
This is not clover or anything useful for
But
the ground.
this, those 3 kind of... Oh, it just has the illusion of being...
It has an illusion of being clover. It's actually
Ah.
oxalis. This is the stuff where you sometimes find 4 leaves of, and they'll pretend that it's a 4-leaf clover. But this is oxalis, and I try to. It's a weed. I try to suppress it.
I wonder if they evolved this way to
Yeah.
fool us.
To fool us, maybe. This is a line of gumi, and I'm not sure that they're going to take off.
You know what gumi is in gumi means in Hebrew?
No,
Rubber.
interesting.
What is gumi here?
Well, they're a nice red berry,
Uh-huh.
and we'll see. You know, it's still early, but I see only 2 of them that look alive now, and so we'll see if they leaf out or not.
And this contraption,
This contraption is the U-bar.
we used it, I remember.
Yeah, I gave a little demonstration of this the other day, so that's why it's laying here. So it looks like this. You rarely lift it, but if you do, you don't lift it. You lift it carefully. You tip it up. You use your body weight. Such like that.
How much gasoline have you used right now?
Let's see.
How many?
Couple of cherry trees. There's some remnants of some broccoli. You know, there's things that are going to come out of dormancy.
We want tomatoes.
But in the
We
next
want tomatoes.
in the next few months, this garden should be transformed
Yeah.
and should start to produce quite a lot of food. As it is, there's still beets, kale, cilantro.
And that box on the tree you put years ago to attract owls?
Owls.
And what happened?
We haven't gotten an owl in there yet. No, that box was for a kestrel. That's a kestrel box. And we did see an owl in one of our boxes further down the road in the summer. For a few days we saw an owl hanging out there. I don't know if it's still there. I feel that maybe I placed it too close to the road. That I should have placed it deeper in the forest. Because I could see we were coming into contact with each other kind of a lot. for probably the comfort of an owl. So I'd like to make more of them and put them a little deeper in the forest, because the owls they like them obviously, but they would like them with a little more privacy.
And why do you want them on your property?
They eat rodents. They eat gophers and voles, as well as rats. They're good.
You have here a lot of gophers.
I don't have a lot of
No
gophers,
gophers.
but gophers can be
Yeah.
a problem in this area. But I'm pretty good at trapping them. And so gophers are not so much of a problem for me. Voles, which are not as aggressive as gophers, are a little bit more prolific and a little harder to trap. But I'm getting better at trapping them as well. So the voles are more or less under control as well.
How do you feel about capturing and killing them?
I kill a number of animals, I have to say. I trap rats, I trap mice, I trap gophers, and I trap voles. On top of that, I cut bushes, I cut trees. It's a part of a life that I've chosen as a rural human being. And I came to understand it at an early age, and partly perhaps through reading Carlos Castaneda's books and recognizing that in order to live we must also have to kill, but that we recognize the gift that another being has made to us, and we give thanks to whatever it is that we feel is necessary to kill. But it's a sense of living more directly with what with the processes of living. A human being requires that killing be done on its behalf. It would be very difficult to live without any type of killing to be done on your behalf. If nothing else, many of us live in houses that include wood, in which trees have had to be cut. But usually even the vegetables that we buy, some animals have had to be displaced or even killed in the process of growing those vegetables. So we try to minimize the killing, and we try to do it in a careful and peaceful way. It was very inspiring for me to help my friend Farmer John slaughter a couple of sheep a couple of months back, and to see the respect and love that he had for his animals in the process of that slaughter. And so it's something that we all learn from. It's something that, because I'm able to kill and use and kill directly, I can, open my heart to the creatures that I do kill, and come to understand my own mortality more deeply as a result.
Walter, you also captured the animals that you released.
Yeah, the rabbits. I caught 16 rabbits last year.
Whoa.
In live trap, and released them far from the farm.
On somebody else's land?
We're closer to Aussie's land.
Okay.
But this year I've decided that I'll eat those rabbits. I'll trap them with a snare, and I'll eat them. Rabbits are good to eat. The rabbits here are small, for sure. They're not the fat, jackrabbits that you sometimes see out in desert areas, but there's meat on these. I have eaten them, but I'm going to eat them this year.
And I remember there were also stories with raccoons.
I trap raccoons. I'm not going to eat raccoons.
But you trapped them and
I did
released
trap
them?
about 6 or 7 raccoons this last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I released them. And I trapped a couple of skunks last year as well.
And how was the smell?
Wonderful.
But they always release the smell? There is no...
No, well, they stink anyway.
Oh, okay.
But the process of gathering the trap and releasing them has to be done very carefully. You use a tarp. You walk towards them with a tarp in your hands, and you cover the trap with a tarp. And you pick up the trap with the tarp covering it. And then they don't spray. But they still have, they've emitted quite a lot of their scent.
Cool.